News now, we go to Zimbabwe. Armed soldiers and police have searched buses, taxis and private vehicles. Demonstrations were called against the government's handling of the economy, which is in dire straits. I'm joined now from Bulawayo by Zimbabwean human rights lawyer and political activist David Coulthard. David, thank you so much for joining us. Your tweets from Bulawayo today drawing quite a bit of attention as to those pictures coming from Harare where protesters were being very heavily beaten by police. What is the situation now from what you understand?
I've just been speaking to lawyers in Harare a few minutes ago, and things have quietened down, although a lot of the people who were sitting in the streets quietly and peacefully protesting have been arrested. There are teams of lawyers, there were teams of lawyers at Harare Central Police Station trying to get bail, but it does appear to be relatively quiet now. I'm told that the centre of Harare resembles a stay away in that there's hardly any business going on. But we now just have to deal with the consequences of the events of the last 24 hours. Because we've seen serious breaches of the Constitution and a completely disproportionate response from the police.
What happened behind the scenes from a legal perspective? Is there a belief that when the MDC's legal team went to the High Court for that urgent application for that march to go ahead, that there was some kind of political involvement?
So let me just give the political and constitutional context to this. Section 59 of our Constitution gives a very clear right to Zimbabweans to demonstrate peacefully. We gave notice to the police a week ago, and we were conscious of what had happened in January and August last year. And so we said that we would be having a march. It was not a stairway. It was going to follow a prescribed route. We were going to have marshals, and it was going to be within a limited space of time. The police have had that notification for well over a week. It's been well publicized. And then late yesterday evening, suddenly the police issued a prohibition, which they're not entitled to do in the first place. So we got our legal team together and filed papers overnight and appeared before a judge at 7 a.m. this morning, arguing the constitutional points. The judge at 9 o'clock in his wisdom dismissed the application, which effectively ended the legal remedies. We responded responsibly by cancelling the demonstration, but of course a lot of people had come into the centre of Harare and they'd taken up positions. They did not have weapons. We've seen these images of middle-aged elderly women sitting on the ground and being brutalized by the police in this disproportionate response. So what the regime has done is it has shut off all legal, non-violent channels for people to express their disgust about what is going on in the country.
Now, you speak of the right to peacefully protest being contained in the Zimbabwean constitution, but we also know that under the previous regime, that part of the constitution was certainly not adhered to. Is there a feeling now that we're heading back to those dark days?
Well, I was one of those people who was never impressed by Mr. Mnangagwa way back in November 2017. When the coup happened, I said that the optimism of people was misplaced, because I've known Mr. Mnangagwa for some 36 years. I was in cabinet with him for 5 years during the inclusive government. He sat 2 places down from me. So I got to see him up front. I think he has had a very elaborate veneer put on. He's tried to persuade the international community that he's a reformist, but he's nothing of the sort. In many respects, I think that his regime is worse than Mr. Mugabe's.
Do you believe that the international community will take heed of what's happening on the ground, especially now that we can still get videos out there, which is not always the case?
Well, a lot of my criticism, as you've seen possibly from my tweets today, has been directed towards the international community. because of its muted response to the crimes against humanity, which occurred in August last year and January this year when soldiers just gunned down innocent people. And I'm afraid the Motlanthe Commission as well deserves criticism because they were very selective in their assessment of the facts. They basically gave Mr. Mnangagwa a get-out-of-jail-free card. And I think the Mnangagwa regime has seen this muted response from the Motlanthe Commission, from the international community, and decided that it is completely immune from criticism and so has this license to engage in this barbaric behavior we've seen today. So the international community now needs to speak up, particularly President Ramaphosa and the South African government. The South African government is the most influential government in the world in dealing with this growing crisis in Zimbabwe, and we hope that they will speak now.
Thank you so much. That's Zimbabwean human rights lawyer and, of course, also a member of the MDC, David Coltart, joining us live on the line there from Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. We thank him